Hello, welcome to the Ministry of Sailing Safety video. This is John Schaefer. Today we're going to talk about what to do when you have an override on a winch and how to use what's called the Prussic Loop or the climber's knot, or what I like to call the finger saving knot, to alleviate the tension so you can deal with the problem. Before we get into how to fix the problem, let's talk about how the problem occurs. As you can see here, we have the sheet loaded up on the primary winch, and we're going to wind it up properly. And let's just follow this line here. You see how the sheet here, is fed from the bottom up. That's critical to understand that winches feed from the bottom up. So when we activate the winch, we'll see how it just loads up the correct way. There you go. Now let's watch what happens when your sheet is not fed in to the primary winch the proper way. Watch what happens as we slowly activate this winch to make sure we don't break anything in the demonstration, but watch what happens when the sheet is not fed in properly. There is your override. So let's follow and see what exactly happened here. And you can see the problem you're going to have. When this is under load, this is the reason it doesn't release. You can see how the line is entrapped itself, and the tension going around the winch will not allow it to release. So this is a Prussic Loop, or what I'm also going to call the climber's knot. They interchange, it's the exact same thing. The principle behind this, it's a sliding knot, which you can slide up and down one rope, but yet in one direction it slips, and the other direction, when it's tight, it holds really, really strong. So pretty much you just line under and you go around twice, which is once and twice in this direction, right, towards the front of the boat. Then you do the exact same thing, all right, as you just cross over and do the exact same thing again. So it's down twice, or towards the front of the boat once. And then you put a second one in, pull out the slack, and then tighten it up. Tighten both ends so it's nice and tight. And so what happens now, when you have this knot, roll it over the right way, it'll slide or it'll hold. You tighten it and it holds. Now you see how it's holding? This is what happens. So now we'll show you the principle on how that works. One of the things you're going to find out is that the only time you get an override is in a critical situation. Now, Ministry of Sailing, we focus on some of the most dangerous activities, and we train people with our sailing rescue swimming program and the certification on how to do man overboard drills, or sending a second swimmer, a certified rescue swimmer, into the water in order to grab somebody, to attach them and pull them back and retrieve them. But most often what happens in an emergency is when people are not paying attention, or when things change, or when, I would say, the situational awareness on the vessel, decreases a little bit. You'll get sometimes what's called the override. Here's a prime example of what one might look like. Now, when you have an override, what happens is this line becomes so taut that you can't release it, and it locks itself onto itself. So it's locked, and so there's no way to release this line. Using the Prussic Loop that we attached on the line previously and rigging it the right way, you can divert the load from here, this line, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the Prussic Loop line and cross it over to another winch to divert the load onto the Prussic Loop line. And I'll show you how that works. So now that we have the line rigged up, and here's how we rigged it. You'll see the Prussic Loop is attached on to our sheet, okay? So the Prussic Loop goes down through a block and then comes and crosses over, back through underneath, and goes to our secondary winch. So the primary winch has got the jam, it's got the load, it's got the override. And then we're going to take the load that's on the sheet right here, which we cannot release. All right, it can't release because it's all jammed up. There's nothing you can do about it. You could cut it, but that's going to cause a lot of other problems later. So the concept between using the Prussic Loop is to transfer the load that's coming on the sheet here to the primary winch. We're going to tighten up on our secondary, which is going to transfer the load off of the winch, and it's going to push it back into this line here on the Prussic Loop line. Now this is just another extra sheet that we have on the vessel. A spinnaker sheet often works because that's what we're working with right now. And so again, we're going to transfer the load using the Prussic Loop off of this line, and we're going to put it on to the Prussic Loop line. And once we do that, when the load is transferred, that'll give us the ability to untangle the problem. All right, so now watch the load transfer from the sheet over onto the loop. And that's good right there. Then we can just, there you go, load's done. This is tight, this is loose. We can now work on what our problem is safely. Load is still transferred quite nicely, and now we're fixed.